Discovery and Defiance. In the year 2187, humanity took its first bold steps into the uncharted reaches of the galaxy. Propelled by quantum-drag starships and an insatiable thirst for exploration, they discovered a pristine world orbiting a sun-like star in the Gliese 667 system, over 22 light-years from Earth. The planet, soon christened Novus Prime, was a veritable paradise. Vast oceans, lush forests, and a breathable atmosphere perfectly suited for human life. The first wave of settlers, numbering in the tens of thousands, embarked on the arduous journey to their new home. They were scientists, engineers, dreamers, and pioneers, each driven by a common purpose: to forge a new future for humanity among the stars. With great care and ingenuity, they laid the foundations of the first human colony beyond the solar system. As the years passed, Novus Prime blossomed into a thriving metropolis. Gleaming cities rose from the fertile soil, their spires reaching towards the alien sky. The colonists unlocked the secrets of the planet's rich resources and unique ecosystems, developing innovative technologies and sustainable practices that allowed them to live in harmony with their adopted world. The population swelled as word of Novus Prime's wonders spread back to Earth, drawing more settlers eager to start anew on the frontiers of space. However, the colonists' success did not go unnoticed. The Galactic Council, an ancient alliance of advanced alien civilizations, had long monitored the burgeoning human presence in the cosmos. Bound by a strict code of non-interference and isolationism, the Council viewed humanity's rapid expansion with growing unease. They saw the young species as unpredictable, their technology advancing at an alarming rate, their ambitions unchecked by the wisdom of ages. As Novus Prime celebrated the completion of its first orbital shipyard, a momentous achievement that promised to open up new avenues for exploration and commerce, the Council's patience reached its breaking point. In a clandestine meeting, the representatives of a dozen star-spanning empires voted to take decisive action against the human upstarts. They would not stand idly by as another species threatened the delicate balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for eons. On the morning of Novus Prime's 25th anniversary, the sky above the capital city darkened as a massive alien fleet emerged from hyperspace. The Council Armada, a force unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, dwarfed the fledgling colony's defenses. Sleek, organic-looking ships with advanced energy shields and weapons of terrifying power hung in the planet's orbit, casting ominous shadows across the land below. From the flagship, a towering crystalline vessel that pulsed with an eerie green light, the Council's ultimatum boomed across every communication channel on Novus Prime. Attention, human settlers of Novus Prime. Your unauthorized presence in this star system violates the sovereign territory of the Galactic Council. Your rapid technological advancement and aggressive expansion pose a direct threat to the stability and security of the galactic community. By order of the Council, you are hereby commanded to abandon this planet and return to your homeworld immediately. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of your colony. You have one planetary rotation to evacuate. This is your only warning. The ultimatum sent shockwaves through the colony. Fear and panic gripped the streets as families huddled in their homes, terrified of the alien fleet looming overhead. In the Great Hall of the Colonial Administration Building, Governor Elara Thorne, a fiery-haired woman with piercing green eyes and a will of steel, gathered her advisors and the heads of the Planetary Defense Force. "We will not be intimidated by these alien bullies," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "Novus Prime is our home, our future. We have poured our blood, sweat, and tears into building this world, and we will not surrender it without a fight. Let the Council come. Let them bring their worst. We will stand our ground and show them the true strength and resilience of the human spirit." Inspired by the governor's defiance, the colonists rallied to the cause. Engineers and scientists worked feverishly to fortify the colony's defenses, adapting their technologies to counter the alien threat. Planetary defense forces, armed with the most advanced weaponry the colony could muster, took up positions around the cities and vital infrastructure. Evacuation ships were prepared to carry the young, the elderly, and the infirm to safety, while every able-bodied adult volunteered to stand and fight for their home. As the deadline approached, Governor Thorne stood on the balcony of the administration building, addressing the assembled colonists in the square below. "My fellow Novus Primians," she said, her voice amplified by the speakers, "today we face the greatest challenge in our colony's history. The Galactic Council, in their arrogance and fear, seeks to destroy all that we have built, to deny us our rightful place among the stars. But we will not bow to their threats. We will not go quietly into the night. We will stand together, united in our love for this world and our determination to defend it. Whatever comes, we will face it head-on, and we will prevail. For Novus Prime, for humanity, for our future." A roar of approval rose from the crowd, their voices joining together in a defiant chant that echoed through the city streets. As the sun set on Novus Prime, the colonists prepared for the battle to come, their resolve unshakable in the face of the alien onslaught. They knew that the road ahead would be filled with hardship and sacrifice, but they were ready to fight for their home, their dreams, and their place in the galaxy. In the twilight hours, Governor Thorne stood alone in her office, gazing out at the stars that had once promised so much hope and wonder. She knew that the fate of Novus Prime, and perhaps all of humanity, rested on the outcome of the coming confrontation. With a heavy heart and a steely determination, she whispered a prayer to the cosmos, a vow that would echo through the ages. "We will not go gently. We will not fade away. We will stand, we will fight, and we will prevail, no matter the cost. This is our home, our legacy, and we will defend it to our last breath." As the first alien ships began their ominous descent towards the planet's surface, the colonists of Novus Prime steeled themselves for the greatest battle of their lives. The time for diplomacy and negotiation had passed. Now it was a fight for survival, a struggle for the very future of humanity. And in that moment, as the sky burned with the fires of war, the people of Novus Prime stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their spirit unbreakable, their resolve as vast and unyielding as the stars themselves. Overwhelming onslaught. As dawn broke over Novus Prime, the alien fleet descended upon the colony like a swarm of locusts, their ships casting ominous shadows across the once peaceful landscape. The Council forces, armed with technology far beyond anything the human defenders had ever encountered, launched a devastating assault on the planet's surface. Massive energy beams scorched the Earth, vaporizing entire city blocks in the blink of an eye. Swarms of drone fighters, each no larger than a human hand, darted through the streets, seeking out and eliminating pockets of resistance with ruthless efficiency. The ground trembled as dropships disgorged hordes of heavily armed alien soldiers, their chitinous armor gleaming in the morning light as they marched forward, laying waste to everything in their path. The human defenses, despite their valiant efforts, were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer scale and power of the alien onslaught. Fighters scrambled to meet the invaders in the skies above the colony, only to be swatted from the air by the superior firepower of the Council ships. Tanks and artillery emplacements, so carefully positioned to defend the city's perimeter, were reduced to smoldering ruins within minutes of the first engagement. In the chaos of the battle, Governor Ilara Thorne stood firm in the command center, her eyes glued to the tactical displays as she coordinated the colony's desperate defense. She watched in horror as the alien forces pushed deeper into the city, their relentless advance marked by the blossoming of explosions and the screams of the dying. "Governor, we can't hold them back," cried a young officer, his face streaked with blood and grime. "We're losing ground on all fronts. They're just too strong." Ilara gritted her teeth, her mind racing as she sought a way to turn the tide of the battle. "We need to buy more time for the evacuation," she said, her voice steady despite the despair gnawing at her heart. "Redirect all available forces to defend the spaceport. We have to give our people a chance to escape." As the orders went out, the remnants of the colony's defenders rallied to make their last stand. Soldiers, militia, and civilians alike took up arms, determined to hold back the alien horde for as long as they could. They fought with the courage of the doomed, each life given in defense of their home, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. In the streets, a makeshift barricade manned by a handful of survivors unleashed a hail of rocket fire into an advancing column of alien soldiers, the explosions tearing through their ranks and sending shattered bodies flying. But for every invader felled, a dozen more took their place, their relentless march unbroken by the futile resistance. At the spaceport, a ragtag fleet of evacuation ships raced to load as many civilians as possible, the desperate cries of those left behind mingling with the roar of the ship's engines as they clawed their way towards the safety of the stars. But even as the ships took flight, the alien fleet moved to intercept, their weapons slicing through the fragile hulls of the human vessels with merciless precision. Amidst the carnage, a small group of survivors huddled in the ruins of a once grand museum, the shattered remnants of humanity's cultural heritage lying scattered at their feet. Among them was Captain Lena Thorne, the governor's daughter and a decorated pilot in the colony's defense force. With a grim determination etched upon her face, she gathered the survivors around her, their eyes filled with fear and desperation. "We can't stay here," she said, her voice raw with emotion. "We have to find a way off this planet, to warn Earth of what's coming. If we don't, the Council will hunt us down and destroy us all." With a heavy heart, Lena led her band of survivors through the ruined streets, picking their way past the smoldering wreckage of their once proud colony. They scavenged what weapons and supplies they could, their every step haunted by the knowledge that their world, their dreams, and their future lay in ashes behind them. As they reached the outskirts of the city, a battered transport ship came into view, its hull scarred by the ravages of battle. Lena's eyes widened in recognition. It was her mother's personal shuttle, a small glimmer of hope amidst the devastation. With a fierce determination, Lena and her companions fought their way to the shuttle, their weapons flashing in the fading light as they cut down the alien soldiers that sought to bar their path. As they clambered aboard the ship, Lena cast one last look back at the ruins of Novus Prime, tears streaming down her face as she beheld the shattered remnants of all they had built. "We will return," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of grief and rage. "We will make them pay for what they've done." As the shuttle lifted off from the ravaged surface of Novus Prime, the survivors huddled together in the cramped confines of the ship, their hearts heavy with the weight of their loss. They had escaped the destruction of their home, but at a terrible cost. Millions had perished in the alien onslaught, their lives snuffed out in a matter of hours by the ruthless power of the Galactic Council. But even as despair threatened to overwhelm them, Lena and her companions clung to the faint embers of hope that still smoldered within their hearts. They knew that their fight was far from over, that the road ahead would be long and fraught with peril. But they also knew that they carried with them the hopes and dreams of all those who had fallen, the unquenchable spirit of a species that refused to be broken by the darkness that sought to consume it. As the shuttle hurtled through the void of space, carrying its precious cargo of survivors towards an uncertain future, Lena stared out into the infinite depths of the cosmos, her eyes blazing with a fierce determination. "We will not let their sacrifice be in vain," she vowed, her voice ringing with the steely resolve of a warrior born. "We will find a way to fight back, to rally the strength of humanity against this monstrous enemy. And when the time comes, we will return to Novus Prime, and we will reclaim what is ours. For the fallen, for the future, for the glory of all that we are and all that we dare to be." And with those words, the survivors of Novus Prime set forth on a journey that would change the course of history, their hearts filled with the unquenchable fire of human resilience and the unyielding determination to forge a new destiny among the stars. Rallying the resistance, as the battered transport ship carrying the survivors of Novus Prime hurtled through the void of space, Its occupants huddled together in silence, each lost in their own thoughts of grief and despair. The weight of their loss hung heavy in the recycled air, a palpable reminder of the countless lives snuffed out by the ruthless Galactic Council's attack. Amidst the somber atmosphere, Captain Lena Thorne stood apart from the others, her gaze fixed upon the stars that streamed past the ship's viewports. Her mind raced with memories of the home she had lost, the friends and loved ones who had fallen beneath the alien onslaught. But beneath the grief, a spark of anger kindled within her heart, a smoldering ember of defiance that refused to be extinguished. As the days stretched into weeks, the survivors fell into a listless routine, their spirits crushed by the magnitude of their defeat. But Lena refused to succumb to despair. She gathered the survivors together, her voice ringing with a fierce determination as she addressed them. "We may have lost Novus Prime, but we have not lost ourselves," she declared, her eyes blazing with an inner fire. "We are human, and we do not know the meaning of surrender. We will not let the Council's cruelty go unanswered. We will fight back, and we will make them pay for every life they have stolen." Slowly, the survivors began to rally around Lena's words, their broken spirits mending in the face of her unwavering resolve. They shared stories of their lost loved ones, their dreams for the future that had been so cruelly shattered. And as they spoke, a newfound sense of purpose began to take root within their hearts. Under Lena's guidance, the survivors began to plan their next move. They knew that they could not take on the might of the Galactic Council alone, but they also knew that they could not sit idly by while their enemy ran rampant across the stars. "We must return to Earth," Lena said, her voice firm with conviction. "We must warn our people of the threat that looms over us all, and we must gather every resource, every ally, every shred of strength that we can muster to stand against the Council's tyranny." As the transport ship neared the fringes of Earth's solar system, a sense of trepidation began to grow among the survivors. They had been gone for so long, cut off from their homeworld by the vast gulfs of space. What if Earth had fallen to the Council in their absence? What if they were the last remnants of a species already doomed to extinction? But as they emerged from the wormhole that had carried them across the light years, their fears were quickly allayed. Earth hung before them, a shimmering blue orb that filled their view screens, its continents and oceans achingly familiar after so long spent in exile. As the transport ship descended through the atmosphere, Lena and her companions were greeted by a world in turmoil. News of the Novus Prime massacre had reached Earth, sparking outrage and despair in equal measure. The people of Earth had long known of the Galactic Council's existence, but they had never before been forced to confront the true scope of its power and cruelty. In the halls of power, politicians and military leaders scrambled to formulate a response, their faces etched with the weight of the decisions that lay before them. Some called for caution, for diplomacy and negotiation in the face of an enemy so vastly superior. Others, their hearts filled with righteous anger, demanded retribution, a strike against the Council that would show the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. Amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Lena and her fellow survivors emerged as a beacon of hope. They shared their stories of loss and survival, their first-hand accounts of the Council's brutality and the desperate fight for survival on Novus Prime. And as their words spread, a groundswell of support began to build, a rising tide of anger and determination that swept across the planet. In secret meetings and hidden bases, Earth's greatest minds came together to plan their counterattack. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the advanced technologies of the Galactic Council, seeking any advantage that could turn the tide of the coming war. Military leaders pored over the hard-won intelligence brought back by Lena and her team, searching for weaknesses in the Council's defenses that could be exploited. And at the heart of it all stood Lena Thorne, the survivor of Novus Prime, who had become the rallying point for a species on the brink of annihilation. With a fire in her eyes and a steely determination in her heart, she worked tirelessly to forge the broken remnants of humanity into a force capable of standing against the Council's might. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, A new force began to take shape on Earth, a coalition of the willing and the desperate, united by a common purpose and an unbreakable resolve. They were soldiers and scientists, politicians and civilians, all bound together by the knowledge that their very survival depended on their ability to fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. And as the preparations for war neared their final stages, Lena stood before the assembled ranks of Earth's defenders, her voice ringing out with the clarity of a clarion call. "Today, we stand on the precipice of history," she declared, her eyes shining with a fierce pride. "Today, we take back our destiny from those who would seek to destroy us. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to be human, to stand tall in the face of impossible odds and fight for all that we hold dear. Remember the fallen of Novus Prime," she continued, her voice cracking with emotion. "Remember the sacrifice of those who gave their lives so that we might live to fight another day. And know that their spirit lives on in each and every one of us, a flame that will never be extinguished. Together, we will forge a new future for our species, a future where we stand as equals among the stars. And if the Council dares to stand in our way, then we will meet them with all the fury and might of the human race, and we will not rest until justice has been served and our rightful place in the cosmos has been secured." As the gathered defenders erupted in a roar of approval, their voices joining together in a chorus of defiance and determination, Lena felt a surge of hope blossom within her heart. The road ahead would be long and treacherous, the battles to come filled with pain and sacrifice. But in that moment, as she stood before the united strength of her people, she knew that they would prevail, that the indomitable spirit of humanity would carry them through the darkness and into the light of a new dawn. And with that knowledge burning brightly within her, Lena Thorne prepared to lead her people to war, to rally the resistance against the Galactic Council, and fight for the future of all that she held dear. Daring counterattack. In the heart of Earth's most heavily guarded military installation, a sense of tense anticipation hung in the air as the final preparations for the planet's first strike against the Galactic Council neared completion. In the cavernous hangar bays, sleek, angular warships, bristling with the latest in human weapons technology, sat in silent rows, their crews working feverishly to ready them for the coming battle. At the center of the bustle of activity stood Lena Thorne, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that hovered before her. The ghostly blue light cast an eerie glow across her face as she studied the intricacies of the plan that had consumed her every waking moment for the past several months. "We have to strike hard and fast," she murmured, her fingers tracing the glowing lines of the Council outpost that was their target. "We may only get one chance at this, and we can't afford to waste it." Beside her, a grizzled old general nodded in agreement, his weathered face etched with the scars of a lifetime of service. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," he said, his voice gruff with determination. "The fleet is fueled and armed. The crews are trained and eager. All we need is the word, and we'll show those Council bastards what happens when you mess with the human race." Lena took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She knew the risks they were taking, the countless lives that hung in the balance. But she also knew that they had no choice, that the fate of their entire species rested on the success of this one daring gambit. "Then let's do it," she said, her voice ringing with a clarity and strength that belied the churning emotions within. "Signal the fleet. We launch in 30 minutes." As the word spread through the base, a ripple of energy and anticipation passed through the assembled crews. Pilots and gunners, engineers and medics, all moved with a newfound sense of purpose, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they were about to embark on a mission that would echo through the ages. In the hangar bays, the warships thrummed to life, their engines flaring with the cold fire of fusion reactors. One by one, they lifted from their berths, the ground trembling beneath the fury of their passage. And as they rose into the clear blue sky, the gathered defenders of Earth lifted their voices in a roar of defiance and pride, their hearts soaring with the ships that carried their hopes and dreams to the stars. For 3 days and nights, The fleet pressed on through the void, their course set for the distant outpost that was their target. Lena stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen that showed the endless expanse of space stretching out before them. She could feel the tension in the air, the coiled anticipation of the crew as they neared their objective. And then, without warning, the outpost appeared before them, a sprawling complex of gleaming metal and pulsing energy that hung in the endless night like a spider's web. Its defenses were formidable, a bristling array of weapon emplacements and shimmering force fields that seemed to defy any hope of victory. But Lena and her fellow humans were undaunted. With a fierce cry of determination, they hurled themselves at the outpost, their ships darting and weaving through the maelstrom of fire that erupted from its guns. The void lit up with the flash of explosions and the crackle of energy beams as the two sides clashed in a titanic struggle for supremacy. For hours, the battle raged, the human fleet taking heavy losses as they pressed their attack. But even as their numbers dwindled, their resolve only grew stronger. With every ship that fell, another rose to take its place, their crews driven by a fierce, unyielding determination to see their mission through to the end. And then, in a moment of blinding clarity, Lena saw her chance. With a shout of triumph, she led a daring assault on the outpost's central core, her ship weaving through the deadly labyrinth of its defenses with a grace and skill that left her enemies reeling. As the core exploded in a blinding flash of light, the outpost's defenses crumbled, its guns falling silent as the human fleet swept in to claim their prize. In the aftermath of the battle, Lena stood amidst the ruins of the outpost, her face streaked with sweat and grime, her eyes blazing with the fire of victory. Around her, the survivors of the assault tended to their wounds and celebrated their triumph, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they had struck a blow against the council that would be felt across the galaxy. But even as they savored their victory, Lena knew that their fight was far from over. The council would not take this defeat lightly, and they would be sure to strike back with all the terrible fury of a wounded beast. But for now, in this one shining moment, the humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, a species that would not go gently into the night. With a fierce grin, Lena turned to her fellow warriors, her voice ringing out with the clarity of a prophet's vision. "This is only the beginning," she declared, her eyes shining with the promise of battles yet to come. "We've shown the council that we're not afraid to fight, that we're willing to risk everything for the chance to live free. And now, with this outpost under our control, we have a foothold in their territory, a base from which to strike out at the heart of their empire. But we can't stop here," she continued, her voice growing urgent with the weight of their task. "We have to keep pushing, keep fighting, until we've driven the council back to the dark corners of the galaxy from which they came. We have to rally every human, every ship, every weapon at our disposal, and forge them into a force capable of standing against the full might of our enemy. It won't be easy," she admitted, her face grim with the knowledge of the sacrifices that lay ahead. "We'll face hardships and losses, setbacks and defeats, but we'll also have moments like this, moments of triumph and glory that will live on in the hearts and minds of our people for generations to come. So let us go forth from this place, armed with the knowledge of our victory and the fire of our resolve. Let us take the fight to the council and show them the true strength and courage of the human spirit. And let us never forget the sacrifices of those who have fallen, the brave men and women who gave their lives so that we might live to fight another day." As Lena's words faded into the stillness of the ruined outpost, the assembled warriors let out a roar of approval, their voices joining together in a chorus of defiance and determination that echoed through the halls of the fallen stronghold. And with that sound ringing in their ears, they set forth to continue their war against the council, to rally the resistance, and fight for the future of all that they held dear. Turning the tide. In the weeks following the daring raid on the council outpost, the resistance began to coalesce into a force to be reckoned with. Word of the victory spread like wildfire through the oppressed populations of a dozen star systems, sparking a wave of rebellions and uprisings that stretched the council's forces to their limit. From hidden bases and secret shipyards, the human fleet grew in strength and number, bolstered by the support of those who had once lived in fear of the Council's tyranny. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the advanced technology captured during the raid, unlocking secrets that had long eluded the brightest minds of Earth. At the forefront of this effort was Lena Thorne, her tireless energy and unwavering determination an inspiration to all who followed her. She pushed her people to new heights of innovation and daring, always seeking out new ways to strike at the heart of the Council's power. Under her leadership, the Resistance launched a series of bold attacks on key Council targets, each one carefully planned and executed to maximize damage, while minimizing the risk to human lives. Supply depots and shipyards fell before their onslaught, while heavily defended convoys found themselves ambushed and overwhelmed by the lightning-fast strikes of human fighter squadrons. But it was in the realm of information warfare that the Resistance truly began to turn the tide. In a daring operation led by Lena herself, a team of skilled hackers and infiltrators managed to penetrate the Council's central communications network, planting a series of devastating viruses and logic bombs that spread like a plague through the alien systems. In a matter of hours, the Council's ability to coordinate and control its vast empire began to unravel. Fleets found themselves cut off from their commanders, while planetary defense grids suddenly went offline, leaving entire worlds vulnerable to attack. Confusion and chaos reigned supreme, as the once unassailable alien empire began to crumble from within. Seizing the opportunity, the Resistance launched a series of simultaneous strikes on a dozen key Council worlds, their forces moving with a speed and precision that caught the aliens completely off guard. Planetary governors and military commanders, long accustomed to the unquestioning obedience of their subjects, suddenly found themselves facing the wrath of populations that had long simmered with resentment and hatred. On the planet Zethax Prime, a human infiltration team managed to spark a full-scale revolt among the downtrodden worker caste, their whispered promises of freedom and justice spreading like wildfire through the vast industrial complexes that covered the planet's surface. Within days, the Council's grip on the planet had been shattered, its once loyal soldiers now fighting side by side with the very rebels they had been sent to suppress. On the garden world of Eloria, a devastating bombardment from human warships caught the planet's defenses completely unprepared, their once impregnable shields collapsing under the onslaught of quantum torpedoes and graviton beams. In the chaos that followed, a coalition of human and alien resistance fighters managed to seize control of the planet's capital city, declaring it a free and independent world for all those who had suffered under the Council's rule. And on a dozen other worlds, similar scenes played out, as the Resistance's forces struck with a speed and ferocity that left the Council reeling. Fleets clashed in the skies above burning cities, while armies battled in the streets and forests below, each side driven by a desperate need to win at any cost. Through it all, Lena Thorne was a constant presence. Her voice and image beamed across the galaxy through pirated communication networks and secret broadcast channels. She rallied the Resistance with her words of courage and defiance, her unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit to overcome any obstacle, no matter how great. And as the weeks turned into months, and the months into years, the tide slowly began to turn. The Council, once so certain of its own invincibility, now found itself beset on all sides by a growing alliance of free worlds and rebel factions, each one emboldened by the success of the human resistance. But even as the Resistance grew in strength and numbers, Lena knew that their greatest challenge still lay ahead. The Council, for all its losses and setbacks, still commanded a vast and powerful empire, with resources and technology far beyond anything the humans could muster. If they were to have any hope of victory, they would need to strike at the very heart of the Council's power, to confront the alien leaders on their own ground and bring an end to their reign of terror once and for all. It was a daunting prospect, one that would require every ounce of courage and determination the Resistance could muster. But Lena was undaunted, her resolve only growing stronger with each passing day. She knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, that there would be sacrifices and losses beyond measure. But she also knew that the alternative, a life of slavery and oppression under the boot of the Council, was too terrible to contemplate. And so, with a fire in her heart and a steely determination in her eyes, Lena Thorne began to lay the groundwork for the final battle, the confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy for generations to come. She gathered her forces, forged new alliances, and prepared for the moment when the resistance would strike at the very heart of the Council's empire. It would be a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, a clash of civilizations and ideologies that would echo through the ages. But Lena knew that they had no choice but to fight, to risk everything for the chance to live free and shape their own destiny among the stars. And as she looked out across the vast expanse of space, her heart filled with a fierce and unquenchable hope, she knew that the human spirit would not be denied, that the dream of a galaxy free from the tyranny of the Council was a dream worth fighting for, no matter the cost. With a quiet prayer to whatever gods or forces might be listening, Lena Thorne steeled herself for the trials to come, ready to lead her people into the fire and forge a new future from the ashes of the old.